Meeting to order. You can all stand for the pledge. Right over next to Steve.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm trying to trip you. Well, if you sit down the rest of the time, it'll be fine. All right, audited bills. This month in the general fund, we had $18,428.77. In the highway fund, $29,870.44. Water one, $1,786.61. In water two, $2,297.52. Water three was $2,414.84. Sewer was $2,341.15. The missing children's tournament account was $1,018.96. And out of our housing grant was $2,831.06. And that was for a grand total of $60,989.35.
Make a motion to pay the audit bills.
A motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Sauer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passed. Next, we have the minutes from the May meeting, which are in your packet, May 12th meeting. Does anybody have any changes? All right, could I get a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
By Mr. McDonald, the second.
I'll second it.
By Mr. Forbes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries. All right, we're moving right along. If anybody has any comments or questions or anything before we really get started, if you can just step up to the podium and say your name, and you may address the board. All right, moving on, we have a guest tonight, Megan Murphy. The podium is all yours.
Hi, my name is Megan Murphy, and I would like to propose donating a little free library to the town of Jay. It is a not-for-profit that has over 125,000 registered little libraries. They're little structures that have 2 shelves for books to be put on. They're mostly for children's books. The program is, their mission is to inspire reading, expand book access, and it's a volunteer-based program. So it's a take a book, leave a book kind of program. I'm proposing to donate the structure in memory of Sean Farmer and Norm Coolidge. I would like to put the structure down at the Douglas Memorial Park down by the basketball courts in Jay. And I would like to donate the structure as well as the first set of books. And with it being right there, I'll be able to maintain and ensure that it is fully stocked with books regularly.
Who's Norman, who's the other one?
Sean Farmer,
Sean's from Upper J, right, or he lived in Upper J for a while?
I have a flyer.
Sorry?
I have a flyer if you guys want.
Sure, yeah.
Sean Farmer is my father-in-law.
Oh.
So I like the idea, but why at that location?
It's right up the road from my house.
Okay.
It's public and has decent foot access with the covered bridge being there, but it's also well lit, so I feel like if vandalism would be less in that area. I contemplated going over to the park, but with the water features and access, I just got concerned that maybe the books might not be as well maintained over there.
So it's primarily for children? Is that what it is? Okay.
So it's a take a book, leave a book type thing?
Yes,
And you would keep up on making sure that it's
I
maintained?
have lots of books, and I'll make sure that
Yeah,
the structure
and
is
making
well
the
maintained as
structures.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other issue would be to check for out and make sure there's not books in there that shouldn't be in there.
Yes.
There's one up here, right, in Blackbrook?
Yep, there's one actually in Blackbrook right by the dentist. There's one outside of the little supermarket in Wilmington. And there's also a really large one outside of Rolf's Orchard. And all of them have done very well.
So you're just looking for permission to place it and to operate it,
Yes.
essentially? Did you have an idea exactly where in Douglas Park?
So I'm open to suggestions. I have a picture of where it is, but if you walk on like the walkway going by like the gazebo area, right when you start, there's the first handicap bench right there, and then there's like a tree with an alcove. There would be a perfect little location.
What a day
It's
for Lynn
closer.
not to be here, huh?
What's that?
What a day for Lynn not to be here.
Yeah,
It's
that's
right
closer to the,
closer to the road, but it's also kind of shaded
Okay,
over
yep.
there, and it's right off of the sidewalk, so I feel like the sidewalk is well maintained during the winter.
Canoe, I'm gonna defer to you on this location.
I'm fine with it, in that park. I just want to try to figure out exactly where.
So like the bridge is right over
Right, so it's right off the bridge, kind of.
On the right-hand side, so the bridge would be to the
Yeah.
left and the walkway.
Yeah, because that's the Douglas Memorial sign, so coming down.
If we are in favor of this, would you be available on the volunteer day
Saturday.
that we have? It's a Saturday, right? On Saturday, that way it could be probably placed so that we can know where and make sure that everything will work and it's in a good spot.
The location is right, if you come through the bridge from the blacksmith side, there's a walkway immediately to the left that walks down along the river, kind of towards the basketball court.
Would you need us to plant the post for you and then this just goes on it, or you have the post and everything?
I don't have anything yet. I was waiting for it to be approved
Okay.
before I got the material. We're probably a few weeks out from having it completed,
Okay.
but I can do the post as well.
Because what I'm saying is we could maybe get the post planted, that way we know that it's fine. And then once you get that structure done, if we do choose to do it, then it could just go up on the post that we place. So we know.
Or are
it's
you gonna
secure.
be around on Saturday? We're doing a community day cleanup at the park Saturday morning.
This Saturday, what time?
Yeah, it starts at 9, and people come and go, but,
I can pop.
Just to fill you in on why we keep deferring to Saturday, we have Lynn Edmonds who's really taken that park under her wing, and she has plans for it and been keeping it up and maintaining it, and I think it would be a little foolish for us not to run this by Lynn, especially in reference to at least location.
yeah. I'm sure she has no problem in somewhere in the park, but, yeah, she'll be there Saturday too.
I can meet down on Saturday.
All right, so is, someone want to make a motion?
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second
Okay, Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Sauer. Any discussion? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I-
Anybody opposed?
Thank you.
You got a little library in the park.
Thank you.
And thank you for the suggestion.
Matt, before you get going too far, you're muted, so nobody's that's logged on is hearing you.
I'm not muted. It's actually going through my personal one. Can you hear
It's showing you as muted.
me
Here?
personally?
Yep, it says Matt Stanley, meeting organizer, and it shows muted because Dave can't hear you.
Not there.
That is
Yeah,
interesting.
it's working there.
Because you're recording.
Oh. That's out of my mail.
Interesting.
Shows camera on, mic off.
Well, let me. Oh, mic back on. Are we better now? Well, I'll actually continue to talk.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on.
Good idea.
Department head reports. Mr. Lincoln, if you want, also wouldn't mind just standing up, and that way you can put your stuff down to help you organize your thoughts.
Yeah. We're still cleaning roads at this point in time. We're over halfway done with them, of course, the weather has put us behind. Our tandem is hopefully headed out soon to the upfitters to start having a dump box, plows, and all that. I'm sure you guys saw the email I sent, that it sounds like the price is gonna stay the same.
Yep, sounds good.
We do have a new hire. the highway garage, Seth Bushy. He does have his permit, and he's gonna start taking that class. We did find out that you can get your permit before you take the new class that's required for it. His is gonna be about $2,400 for a Class B. It's $5,000 for a Class A. And when you get done with the class, you use their truck to take your road test out. So he is in the process of getting his license. I haven't had any applications for anybody with a CDL yet. But we'll work on it, and then if I don't get anything, we'll have to go to somebody else with a permit again. The SCADA system in the Nugent plant is way outdated.
Sorry, could I just, for everybody's understanding, I think you cleared it up for me. The CDL permit course is essentially now like a 5-hour course for somebody to get their license.
It's
You can
30
go
hours.
get your permit now,
Right,
but you can go get your permit, but you have to take the course before you get your license.
correct. It's 30 hours for Class B and 60 hours for Class A.
My understanding originally was you got your permit and then you took the class and like your license came as part of, or you had to take the class to get your permit.
Right, no, you still gotta go through and follow through, make your road test and all of that to continue on, so.
Sorry to
Seth will be our-
interrupt you.
Seth will be our first one to see how it goes.
Awesome.
The SCADA system is the control system in our Nugent water plant. It's outdated, some of the parts they don't even make for it anymore, so. At some point in time, we're gonna have to try and work with the county or somebody to see if we can get a grant maybe to start updating it.
That's on the Nugent plant?
Yeah,
Is that the only plant that has this?
well, there is one in the new plant, but that's obviously brand new.
Right.
But that plant feeds J and Upper J.
Just to, the Nugent plant, I didn't realize it was that old. 10 years, 15?
Oh, no, it was a lot of years.
Is it that old now?
Yeah.
Probably closer to 20 years old.
Oh, easy, yeah.
It's been there quite a while. But what's happening is they have a variable speed driver unit in there and controls the pumps to fill the tanks. That's a little bit newer, but the rest of the control panels are not starting to match up, and we can't get any parts anymore. So that's something we're gonna have to think about.
So
Whether
can
fingers
you
crossed.
replace parts at a time, or is it one thing, you gotta do all in one shot?
When you do it, you have to update the whole thing.
Yeah.
But again, that's basically a 20-year investment when you do it. That sends out the dialers to let us know what the fluorination is, all of that.
Yeah.
If we have a water main break, it'll actually call us and say you're using large amount of water. And again, it runs the pumps, it switches from one well to the next.
So it's essentially like the monitoring and control system?
How long do you think, this is something that's on our notice to plan for, not needs to be done right away?
It's not nothing that needs to be
But
done
we need to
this
be aware-
year,
but we need to be aware of
need
it.
to start thinking this year of it.
Put a budget together.
Yep, I did talk to Todd Hodson from the county, and he said if he had to guess a price, it was probably right around 70,000 or more to update everything.
Everything starts at 100, yeah.
So what is the farthest point now, Kevin, that we need to get it replaced by? Did they give you
I would say no more than 2 years.
2 years?
Is this something that, you said you spoke to Todd already?
Yeah.
Is this something that Todd can help us install, or is this something that we have
That'll
to?
have to be hired out.
That'll be-
The amount of work that's done. But he would help us plan it and make sure we're getting what we need.
So we're talking about an engineered project.
More than likely, but I think he can engineer it. With his licenses.
I hope so.
But again, it's something that we can start getting prices on.
I would say start doing some investigation with Todd and see if it needs to go through them or if it's something that we need to actually put out an RFP for or how we need to go through in doing that.
I'm wondering if there's, like you mentioned earlier, I wonder if there's grants available for it too.
Yeah, I'm being told there is.
It's
It
always
just takes
better.
a while to get to them.
Are there any other controls within that system other than in the Nugent plant that should be looked at the same time to do it as a package?
Yes, it would be the Nugent plant, the valve station on Valley Road, and the plant that runs the tank in Upper J, which is just another pump station to fill the tank. They would all have to be done at the same
So
time.
they're gonna have to update the communication between them too.
Well, that's
That's part of that.
the thing we just had at the county is, whether it's a closed system, like a sole proprietary system or an open source system, because they're running into things even with their new public safety building, that there were proprietary systems and trying to switch that stuff out. It's no longer
Yeah.
use the
You
same
can't
things and now everything runs off of Cat 5 or Cat 6.
Yeah.
And all that stuff before was running off of like,
Telephone.
yeah, so.
But something to think about, if you hear of any grants that are out there for this.
Well, it's always good to change, upgrade things on our time.
Anytime you deal with water, you've got to stay on top of it.
Well, I'll just say one thing. This is the first time I've been on the board, someone's actually given us a heads up about a project, so I appreciate that.
I'm gonna try and keep doing that, because it's the only way to plan for it, especially if you can't order anything right now. Maybe 3 to 6 weeks, it could be a year.
So the 70,000 was just Nugent plan. The other stuff is gonna be on top of it, so we're looking over 100 grand.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So they're gonna start to.
There you go.
But that would be primarily, that would be over 2 districts, right?
That would be
Yeah.
split between the 2 districts, correct?
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I have is I'm going to be doing on June 14th, a push underneath the road of Route 9N at Curtis Cyclones. That'll be by the fair house. To give you guys a heads up for that, and he has paid for it, so.
Does traffic have to be shut down?
Not there, we will have to, because we'll be out of the road.
And that's just for a water line being put in?
Yep, that was part of the planning board, that he had to put a separate water line in to separate his property that he has there, he divided it in 2. So they made stipulation, he had to have a water line in each one.
Your grandma's old place, grandma?
Yeah,
That's separated into 2 parties now?
He wants to.
yeah, the planning board won't sign off on it until he has water inside the old garage part. He was running it from the house to the garage. That now will be 2 separate services.
Perfect.
Well, that's
It's good
part of
that
that private water line issue.
Yeah.
They're getting ahead of it on that, so that's good.
That's good.
And I know we were going to meet again with our group of people yesterday. I'm glad you let me know so I could sleep in another hour that we're postponing, but I did want everybody to be aware we are still planning, Steve and I meeting regularly with the highway department, discussing about different things.
When you buy us a coffee maker.
Everything in
Is that why we didn't have it?
Do you still have a coffee maker?
No, there's no money in the budget for it.
You want pop coffee or you want a Keurig?
Yeah. And I did work in Newt, I got the compost for Saturday's work be at the Douglas Park. The only thing I got left is the stone to bring down to them for the children's park, for splitters.
Thank you.
And other than that, that's pretty much all I have.
Perfect.
Ken, I have one question. How's the other 5 ton doing?
Hoping to have that by the end of the month, if everything goes right.
Any word on the security system or the radios yet?
We have the 2 portable radios, the other ones, they keep telling them they're back ordered. And I talked to other guys and they're having the same issue, they ordered them a long time ago and everything just keeps being held back.
You mean the security system for the building?
And I guess
The
you,
fire system, and then there's the radios for the trucks.
That's not done, the fire security system?
They've got wires that they're waiting on, computer chips.
Really? I thought that was all
and also truck update, I think you had sent us an email, but if you just want to,
Truck update on the tandem unit.
both. Well, I mean, the 5 ton is supposed to be here soon.
June is what they're saying.
And then,
The tandem, I remember what he did say.
So
June
you should-
8th is supposed to go out to, June
from my understanding, the chassis was built in the middle of May.
8th? Yeah, and
So,
it's supposed to
yay.
go get the dump box put on.
We have a truck.
But they were waiting for some other.
The chassis was built May 18th,
No.
so it is on its way now.
So, but there was, the last delivery update that you had given us was fall.
Yeah, and now it's bumped up.
And you also checked to see that they're not tacking on any extra fees.
Right, now that is Charlie Boys or Western Star. I've got to call the outfitters to make sure there's some change.
Okay.
Is that DeJohn that's doing that?
No, it's
Henderson.
Henderson. It's doing it on this truck. DeJohn is doing the other one, the 5 ton. And that's in Vermont right now, getting everything put on it. So from what I understand, we'll have it by the end of the month.
And you're still waiting for pricing on it?
Charlie Boys will not give us a pricing on another truck. International will, but there's like a 25% increase possible in any contracts that you sign, or more.
So a quote is worthless, basically.
Correct.
Pretty much.
But I think we do
Materials are
it,
changing.
I mean, personally, I think we need to start this process because it's gonna be 2 years before another truck, and this is replacing a 2003, and we have a 2004 that needs to be
Yeah,
replaced.
Charlie Boys do have a spec on the second tandem already with Tenco products onto it. I just gotta go through Viking and Henderson to see what their upgrades would be.
Mhm.
And I wanna go through International. That's pretty much the only truck dealers we have kind of locally in the area that have the heavy enough duty trucks for what we do.
We just gotta make sure we follow the procurement policy.
Right.
Well, I wonder if we should, at some point, if you recommend us, putting out to bid for another truck. And that way we do follow our procurement policy of getting, at least, we know what we want in a truck, right? Let's see who can come back with a bid and what a time frame is.
I think the tandem we went to, was it OSG bid?
Yes.
I think the tandem, it's either the tandem or the bike.
Long and short is we're pretty much mandated to go through OSG on all of our bids, unless you do a piggyback, which is still through OSG.
Right. Or you go through Sourcewell or whatever to get what you want, or somewhat what you want. We may have to just settle with whatever somebody has on the lot, if we're looking to try and upgrade, instead of waiting 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's better than not having a plow truck.
Mhm.
That's all I got, unless you guys got more for me.
Nope.
Not yet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move right to committee updates. Kate Frederick has sent me a youth commission update, which you guys should have in your packet, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, so, current program updates, instructional basketball programs are over. Kids were very excited about participating. The red, white, and blue swim program is over. Great program with experienced coaches, so everybody had a good time with that. Baseball and softball has begun. T-ball will begin mid-June. Interviews for summer camp counselors are done. Recommendations are attached here. And we can, so who they are recommending to hire this year are Carson Garcia from Jay, Zach McLean from Black Brook, Declan Murphy from Jay, Brooklyn Douglas from Black Brook, Sarah Richards from Jay, Haley Hickey from Jay, Hannah Valentin from Jay, and Kendall Lawrence from Black Brook. And I guess we should have a resolution accepting these appointments. So if I could get a motion to accept these appointments.
I'll make that motion.
By Mr. Coolidge, a second.
I'll second.
And Mr. Sauer, any discussion?
They're asking for a 50-cent raise for one person. I don't know if we're gonna do that.
That 50-cent raise is for a second year. Everybody else is a first-year person.
So they get 500 per person? That reads?
What's that?
They get, each
No, that's-
one.
No, that's a different,
That's
that's a different thing.
Oh,
This is just for the hourly
This is
rate.
oh, they're paid hourly, okay.
And Carol, are we correct that they usually do give a raise each year for returning?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is, just to clarify, this is for summer camp.
This is for summer camp that is happening at the high school.
And all this is now split 4 ways.
These,
Four counties? Oh, no, these are just.
these are this end of the districts. So there were 10 total applicants. 5 of the 8 that are hired are Town of Jay residents. We are going to pay everybody from the Town of Jay, because we ran into some issues last year where paperwork was not done properly because we were doing payroll for kids that were in Black Brook and Jay. We're gonna be doing payroll for the Town of Jay kids, so we have all the paperwork and everything that needs to be filed with Essex County. Because we have one more we're gonna essentially split the rate of 2 kids and bill Blackbrook, so we're both Blackbrook and Jay are paying for 4 kids.
So the math will work out,
The math will work out.
but we hire Town of Jay, they hire Blackbrook.
Right, and they're just running through our payroll, and the same thing is, right, there's 3 Blackbrook, 5 J, for a total of 8.
So you take one off Jay and add it to Blackbrook.
Is essentially what's happening. So the other thing is the stipend that's being paid to the director above and beyond what Vista pays for them, and the amount that is paid to the assistant director are both going to be paid through the Town of Jay because they're Jay residents as well. Those will be split 4 ways, those stipends. And those, off the top of my head, were, I don't have those numbers right here off the top of my head, they're not included in this report. 1,500 and 1,300, and those will be split 4 ways.
And same for the school people as well, lifeguards and all that?
Correct, yes, yep. So,
Okay.
all right, so,
Hold on, do we have to make a resolution for Chris Turnbow as well, or pay?
we're not there yet.
Oh.
So, any other discussion about accepting these?
Do we know, maybe it's a separate conversation, but do we know what the total cost is this year?
It's the cost that is budgeted because it was based on having 8, and it was based on having all these
I think the
different.
whole program.
Correct.
Yeah.
The cost has all been budgeted. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Currently, we are in the planning process for the summer program, which is not really so much in the planning process because we are getting really close to having hired staff. Vista has been hired and they know what they're doing there. The school knows what they're going to be doing. Busing has been set up. The program currently has over 140 signups, which is higher than last year. Swim signups ended on May 20th. We have 65 participants from the Town of Jay and Blackbrook. Town of Chesterfield and Osage will do their own swim program. So that's where the summer program currently is. Youth Commission was in agreement to complete a massive inventory of all current equipment. We're going to have a date set this summer to take an inventory of all our equipment, and we're going to make sure that it's not stored, like the baseball and softball stuff is not going to be stored out in the shed at the Grove. We're going to find a place indoor where the stuff can not get moldy and Chris Turnbull did resign from the Youth Commission at our May meeting. He said his life has gotten a lot busier. His resignation letter is attached to the back. So if I could get a motion to accept his resignation from Youth Commission. Mr. McDonald, the second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Coolidge, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Resignation is accepted. So we just did get a new board member a couple months ago in Grace Potthast, so we will be seeking another board member this coming month. I guess I did skip a little bit going to those kids. So Chris Turnbull was taking over the summer baseball program last month. One of the bylaws of the Youth Commission was you can't be on board and take one of the stipends for one of the positions. Once he actually resigned, I then spoke up and said, well, now we can pay you for the position you're going to do. So I'd just like to have a motion to pay Chris for being the baseball and softball coordinator for this year.
I'll make the motion to pay Chris Turnbull $500 for the baseball softball program, in which he will receive $250 from Town of Jay and $250 from Blackbrook.
Can I have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. McDonald, any discussion? Let's take a roll call vote for this, please, Carol.
Councilman Forbes,
Yes.
Councilman Coolidge,
Yes.
Councilman McDonald?
Yes.
Supervisor Stanley?
Yes.
Councilman Zarr?
Yes.
Motion carries. So Kate also put her information on here if anybody has any questions or concerns, but I feel we are moving right along in your commission and things are working well. Mr. Sauer, could you give us an update for parks?
Yes, so Paul Benway has been very busy and done a great job up at Henry's Trail. We did get Ehrlich Pest Management to come out and give us a quote for the poison ivy treatment, and it will be $880. And it's basically the same price that we paid a few years back when we did it. But I think they're going to go a little bit further in terms of doing the playground stations when you come out.
If you look further in your packets, there are quotes from Ehrlich.
Yeah.
There's two different quotes.
Yeah, so the poison ivy treatment is $880. When we're up there, we also talked about doing the tick management, and that quote is a 5-month service, but that will be $3,250. Now, that was just what he said. He was going to give us a quote. It didn't seem like it was necessary because, when they do the poison ivy treatment, they kill the brush, 5 feet out, and really the issue with ticks, the ticks won't be thriving in that area. So only if you go back in, go out off the trail into the woods. So I think my understanding was that wasn't really necessary, but he did submit the quote. My suggestion is that we just go ahead if we need a resolution.
Is that a motion?
A motion, for resolution.
The quote for the tick's not on this one, though.
It's on the second one, there's two separate quotes.
So my motion would be to just go with the poison ivy treatment for $880.
Can I get a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. Forbes, any discussion?
Just one comment, and there is money in the Henry's Trail, line item. That's been there for a few years, that will probably come out of it, so.
So you want this to come from the Henry's Trail?
That's what was done in the past, so assuming.
Any other discussion? Carol, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Forbes?
Yes.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
Councilman McDonald?
Yes.
Supervisor Stanley?
Yes.
Councilman Zarr?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And then the only other thing, obviously this Saturday, June 11th, we've got the park cleanup at Douglas Park. I'm hoping we'll get a lot of volunteers. We'll see. We got some paint, we got the mulch. Thanks, Kevin, and the weeding. And Paul has already been doing a lot of work. Again, he's halfway through replacing the boards on the benches there. He's hoping to get them done tomorrow. So he's been doing a lot of the prep work and.
It looks great.
Yeah,
So that is on the 11th at 9 a.m.?
at 9 a.m.
Until?
Until, whenever you want to go home. If you got a lot of energy, stay as long as you want.
Was there a request for the bandstand as well?
I guess, that was Don asked. I ran into him at Ward Lumber the other day, and he asked if he was allowed, if we would agree for him to take down, there's like 3 bushes on one side of the bandstand. They're kind of dying. They look a little odd because it's only on one side, and they are obstructing, we're going to paint the bandstand. So that was just, we just wanted to make sure it was okay if he takes them out of the bushes. I'm definitely in favor of it because they are not looking healthy. So I don't know if we need.
So is that a motion?
I guess if we need a motion.
Yeah,
for that,
let's
then
just-
yes.
A motion by Mr. Sauer, a second. Any discussion?
the thought is eventually, once that gets painted and these guys change some boards on the bandstand, to maybe, plant some flowers or something colorful instead.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passed.
The only other things, as you mentioned, the village green is, I don't know if it's in your plan, right? It would be to put out to bid for the lights. I don't know where we're at with that. I know, Tom, you've been part of it, and Matt, you as well, so.
We gotta get back with it, and, Matt, I think we need to come up with a plan for it.
I do too.
I think it should all be conduited and where,
Right.
you just don't know what's there.
And I don't think it's something we want to rush. I think it's something we want to come out with a plan, have an idea of what we want, and then put what we want out to bid.
Maybe we could look at updating the electric system at the bandstand for the concerts in Old Park. Maybe put a light there, because later in the year, they're picking up their stuff in the dark, a spotlight or something there. So there's some other things to think about if we're gonna do it, so.
So maybe we can talk about that stuff at one Parks meeting. We can talk about,
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
think
maybe
there's an agreement. I mean, that's Tom Morrison's idea too, is put the conduit in. And,
well, when I met with Don, he talked about a couple of things about, he's like, don't overlook solar.
Yeah.
But I think if we're gonna do it, it should be done like a commercial fitting, so.
We'll just, in reference to solar, I don't know where you put it or whatnot, but that might help us get our solar grant too. For the,
It could be part of, I think it's a bigger project, I think, for grant purpose
Right.
and all that, more than just a solar at that.
There's a
part.
lot of different solar things for that solar grant. Some of those things were being part of a community solar, and you had to have 10 people sign up for that, so it's not, I don't know if it's just like a little project that will.
yeah, don't let it, it just,
Yeah,
Anything else for Parks? All right, moving on to personnel, Mr. Coolidge.
everybody should have a copy of the revised draft 2 employee handbook. If you look through here, you're going to see a lot of yellows. The yellows are proposed changes or things that we've changed. A lot of the stuff that is in here is just updated necessities that we need just with New York State law. Others, parts of it, you'll see where we've actually made some edited changes in here and corrected some wording, so please review that. For the most part, I think it came out all right. I want to thank Carol especially for spending as much time and energy on this. Tom and I certainly helped out a lot, but I think Carol kind of did the bulk of this, huh?
Sure.
so what's the
Absolutely.
stuff in blue? I saw something.
It's just, anything that's highlighted has some kind of change or attention. For the most part in here, there was 3 things that we have to talk about, and I think, Matt, we should talk about that in an executive session because they're personnel items. But other than that,
I would add that
it's pretty
when
straightforward.
you go through this, go have your whole one with it, so you can.
Yeah.
Where were
compare
the
the
changes
that
at?
we made,
If
and what
you,
we took
Just
out.
all the highlighted, I mean, was there any specific area that was changed more than others?
I would say the whole thing was changed quite a bit in the sense of adding compliance stuff. As for drastic changes, they were just updating, a lot of it was just updating the town laws and changes that we have done. For instance, not having to hire town of J residents for employees. That was removed from there as a condition. A couple other, go ahead. No,
Few things we left out, like amounts.
Yeah.
So we don't have to keep changing it, amounts change.
So for instance, clothing allowance, the clothing allowance for highway, that's been up for topic and I think we changed it 2 or 3 times in the last 2 years. So instead of constantly changing and updating the manual, we made the section read, the town of Jay will provide annual clothing allowance for specified positions and the amount to be determined periodically by the board. The allowance will be reported as part of the employee's income. So every year when we have our annual meeting, will address that, and then that'll become that part of it, if that changes. Couple other
You
things.
want Eddie to try to review it again in the future.
Exactly. Another thing that we changed in that respect was in relation to our health insurance and stuff. It says refer to the HR manager for more details, because health insurance policy changes. I think we have 3 different start hire dates of who gets what in here and there, and it adds like 10 pages to here, and more than anything, it's confusing. So we just have it directed to CHR for more information of what each individual employee will qualify for if there's questions. It still outlines what's covered, but for more specific details on percentages, it's CHR. Anything else besides the personnel?
And there was 3 minor things that we changed on this one too, right? You gotta-
Well, yep. But this is, I'd say 99%, right? And the other 1% we'll talk about in the executive session.
So this I should put on my nightstand, it'll help me go to
Yeah.
sleep?
Yeah, good reading.
When your wife picks it up,
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, thank you guys so much for putting in a lot of hours on that. I know it's been, I appreciate you guys doing that. I appreciate Carol for working really hard on that with you guys. So getting to my report, I have quite a few things, but I'm hoping they are going to be quick. The first thing I wanted to update you guys is I've been going back and forth with our COVID, reporting our COVID relief monies, the ARPA money, the ARPA funds. So I have gone into, it took me like a week to actually be able to change the email address from Archie to myself, and I had to reset a whole login.gov.
They had me in there.
Yeah, you're in there too. So when I started doing the stuff, I had to add myself, so I added myself. Then once I spent the day to add myself, I went in there to change and make it so I could make changes. I put in my email address. It says it won't allow me to put in my email address because Archie's still in there with his email address. So I sent them an email and they said, well, you need to use a different email address. And I said, I cannot be the only new supervisor in the state of New York who had one supervisor start applying for ARPA in this. So I said, I will await you sending, like resolving the issue. Haven't heard back from them, so I sent them an email again today saying there's still an issue. Like I could submit the form with Archie's stuff with my email address, but I don't feel confident doing that because I don't think it's right. It should be moving forward. It should be me being able to sign it. So I'm working with them. I've contacted the associations of towns. One of the lawyers who helped does the training, Sarah, she's sort of helping me as well. So hopefully by next month, this will all be resolved. But I was like, you know what, if they don't ever want to fix it, I just won't ever submit. And I was actually told, well, you may want to get it done so you can get your other half of your money.
That's right.
Is it something to do with the e-signature?
No, it has to do with it, I'm in the system, but I can't, if I were to put, say, my personal email address, I could log on and everything would be fine, but that's not going to solve the problem down the road to try to.
Right. It's just name the supervisor's email
Right.
address. period.
So that's where that currently is. Moving on to updates. You guys approved for us to go out for the CDBG CARES Act grant to do some upgrades here of the ramp, the handicap doors at the front. It included getting a lift for the second floor. Well, as we were getting all that stuff together, the grant ran out of money. So we still finished getting a lot of that stuff around. Community Service contacted me back. CDBG has, and it's just another part of CDBG, is the Public Facilities Program. It's the same exact thing. The public hearing that we held in a couple of months ago is still good. The only thing we need to do to move over to this portion of the grant, in your packet, there's another seeker resolution, which is just a resolution to determine proposed action is a type 2 action for the purposes of New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Whereas the town of Jay proposes to implement an ADA access improvement project for the purpose of removing architectural barriers to handicapped access to the J Community Center located at 11 School Lane in the hamlet of Osceola Forks. And whereas the proposed project activities include removal of existing ramp and stairs, construction of ADA compliant ramp, stairs and railing, installation of automatic door openers to the main entrance, and installation of a wheelchair lift, therefore referred to as said action. And whereas the town of Jay is required to comply with New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, seeker, and regulations pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617 with respect to said action. And whereas the town board of the town of Jay has reviewed the project in accordance to 6 New York, I guess that's community resource, something or other, Part 617, to determine whether said action is subject to review under seeker. And whereas said action is not subject to review under seeker, since it includes reconstruction of structure in kind on the same site, which is listed as a type 2 action under 6 NYCRR. Now therefore be resolved that the town of Jay, the town board of the town of Jay declares said action constitutes a type 2 action under 6 NYCRR 617.5 C2, and no other further action in state Environmental Quality Review Act is required. So I need a motion for this to continue on. Mr. McDonald, a second. Mr. Sauer, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Animal control officer, I have had 4 applications come in for animal control officer. One is already works together with her significant other for the town of Elizabethtown, and was actually recommended to me by Janet Collier out of, Janet Collier is the New York State Ag person who actually trains our animal control officers. She highly recommended this person, so we met. We actually were in contact a couple weeks ago. We met out in Elizabethtown on Tuesday. She already has worked some things with Dan Manning, so she knows the process of going through with seizures. She knows how to handle different cases and take care and diffuse some situations. So right now, the amount we currently pay our animal control officer is $2,500 and some dollars. It works out to be $214 a month plus mileage. Talking to her, she was requesting that we do $300 a month, which works out to $3,600 a year. I told her that I felt comfortable that with the rising cost of gas and everything that's going on and increases in wages, that I felt I could propose to you guys hiring her. Her name is Donna Tatro for $250 a month. Of course, that would be average with our bi-weekly payroll. That would work out to $3,000. It would be an increase in just over $400 for the year. And she could start immediately because she is already a dog control officer, and we could actually start her immediately. And Janet Collier had actually sent me an email this week and said, so do you have an animal control officer yet? Because the state's going to start getting after me. So, yeah. So that's where
She's okay with 250?
yeah, yes.
I'll make that resolution.
What? I'll wait for discussion.
Yep. So I have a motion by Mr. Sauer, and a second by Mr. McDonald. Discussion.
Where is she currently residing?
Elizabethtown.
And if she gets called for something, mileage starts from Elizabethtown and then and until she gets home?
Yes.
The good thing.
Keep in mind, if she's seizing an animal,
She's got to go.
she's got to go to Westport anyways. So it could be in the total opposite direction, which would not be good.
Yeah.
But I do see where you're coming from. But I mean, I've been here for 6 months now, and we've really had one animal issue in that 6 months.
Usually, usually we don't have a lot of the issues, so even if there's a little bit more cost in the mileage, this is something, this appointment is through the end of the year.
Yes.
And, if it becomes a problem, that's a conversation we could have at the, for next year, right?
Correct.
Problem being too much mileage cost.
Right. Any other discussion? So this is a motion to hire Donna Tatro at $250 a month,
Yes.
plus mileage. Carol, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Forbes,
Yes.
Councilman Coolidge,
Yes.
Councilman McDonald,
Yes.
Supervisor Skibby,
Yes.
Councilman Star,
Yes.
Motion carries. So now is green initiatives are a big topic now. We brought it up about solar. We have, so Mr. Sauer and I have been on a lot of calls from EV chargers, which will help us in this, the grant that we've been talking about. And we've also just had a conversation about composting, and there was one other,
Well, the community solar.
The community
Bank,
solar
NYSERDA,
stuff.
and quite a few things, yeah.
So I would like to create a green initiative committee. I would like Mr. Sauer to chair that committee. But I also want to see if we can get some residents who want to be involved with being part of this committee, looking for ways that our community can either start to adopt green initiatives and just things that we can propose, because there are a lot of things out there. And I would just like to, I know that just me personally and Mr. Sauer don't have enough time probably to devote entirely to it. So I just wanted to see if you guys were in favor of creating a green initiative committee. So I'll make a motion to create that. Can I have a second for that?
I'll say.
Chairman, second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passed. So we'll come back next meeting with who we have on that committee for approval. This past week, I went out to meet with Mr. and Mr. Cahill on their property. They own the property that is adjacent to the Nugent Water Plant. So there are a lot of issues that are going on up there since Irene. This property dates back to when the dam was still up there. When we actually put in the new water system, we did take some of their land by eminent domain so that we can keep our water infrastructure safe. There are some property deed restrictions on their property, but the biggest issue happened when Irene came through and actually plugged that reservoir and backed the stream up and moved the actual stream bed more onto their property. They have no real access to get onto their property. So I met with them, went and walked the property. Kevin also met me up there with Norm, because this is sort of an issue that was brought up in our latest health department report of the Nugent plant because of the way the water's laid out. And I know DEC has been up there before. So I wanted to let you know, I did contact DEC, the health department, and the Osceola River Association, so that we can actually get me back up to speed about what talks were prior to me being elected and what we can do to remedy that situation so that it is, one, either the brook is back where it belongs, because you can see the old brook bed. There are still streams bubbling up where the brook bed was saying, give me my brook back. So I did get a response from 2 of those 3 people, just waiting on another one so that we can go up and have a conversation up there to see what, if anything, if there's grants out there to help create and not create, but help alleviate that problem. So that's where we are with that.
Can I just add or ask
Yes.
a question? I think it is. I was at the planning board meeting yesterday, and I feel like this was brought up, are they Cahill's in the middle of something in the planning board or subdivision of that property?
They did not bring up any issues. I can check with the planning board, but
Yeah, I think the only thing they mentioned was they made sure the landlord knew the kids. That was the only thing. That's all they said to us, that I know.
I mean, it'd be more of a planning board thing, which I'm going to speak about a little bit later too, but I just want to make sure anything we do isn't going to change the impact of a planning board decision and, you know, the safety of our water and our
Right.
water plant.
agreed.
So
I will look into that though.
They're not looking for more right of ways, they're just looking.
They're just looking for a way to get onto their land, really, is the big problem, because there was a bridge there that is long gone, and the only way they can really access their land is through deed restricted, where they can't remove trees or create or build a bridge, or, so. Any other questions about that property?
How were they, they're out to,
Very good, very good.
I always felt they were decent people.
Absolutely. Very nice, and had a great afternoon with them. I wanted to update you that senior meals are now being delivered by the county. The rental car was returned. So Essex County ACAP is taking care of all the senior meals, all the at-home Meals on Wheels in the town of Jay for us. Wastewater facility update. Rob from Community Resources reached out this week because there is another possible grant that is coming out, and I think it's federal money that would come through EFC, I believe. But we need to actually schedule a meeting to sit down with Black Brook so that we can actually have Rob explain this to everybody, because I don't want to lose some of the details. But it actually looked like the lagoon upgrade could be done for a fraction of the cost now. And it would, this new federal money would actually offset, the lagoon upgrade was like a $2.5 million investment. And by getting this, it's 2.7 million. But with other fees and things, it actually works out to, I want to say that a $400,000 increase to get the whole thing done.
Just under that.
Yep. So, information did go to you guys. It also went to Black Brook from Rob so that we could look it over and digest it. I'm proposing we meet in a joint town board meeting with Black Brook on next Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock.
I may not be able to make that one.
That is the 15th.
Do we all need to be there, Matt?
No, we don't. We just need a quorum.
I don't know that I can make that.
Okay.
I don't have it on my calendar, but I have a feeling I have something. I'd have to check. I'd have to get back to you.
6 p.m. Well, just get back in touch with me.
Who is on the sewer committee?
I look at this each time before
Is
The
it
sewer
Adam?
committee is Adam
It's
and
me
Tom.
and Tom, I think.
but I like to be involved in this
Yeah.
with them right now, so that's why I would like it to be.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking, I mean, I think it's important that at least one,
Oh,
both of
absolutely.
them are,
Yes.
I can make it, but I think,
I am pretty positive I have another meeting that time, but I have to double check my notes. I can't find it real quick.
Oh, we got 3 with you.
Yeah.
Well, what time are you, what time?
6 o'clock.
I think I have something at 6:30.
You know that that's gonna work with BlackRock or
He said it would work.
I'll have to get back to you then.
Okay.
and is anybody from the county gonna be like that too, or just?
Rob will be actually doing a presentation.
Okay.
During it. 4th of July update. We have been doing a lot. So just to sort of give you a rundown of the whole day, we have from parade to fireworks. We are scheduling a volunteer setup day, if you will, on June 26th, which is a Sunday at 9 a.m. And I know if I really know Dean Joy that well, a lot of the stuff is going to be done before we even show up to start setting up anyways, but a lot of it's going to be getting out picnic tables and cleaning picnic tables and setting the grounds up for the 4th. Kevin, if we could get the stand taken up there on.
I'll be there.
Perfect. I'd be there.
For fireworks.
You were waiting for that one, too.
So, the parade is gonna start at noon. It's gonna be the same time. Randy Douglas has actually agreed to be our MC, so I get a pass on that again, thank God. Sienna Charles is actually going to be singing the Star Spangled Banner for us. We are going to have 4 categories of awards to give out, as well as you participated in the 4th of July, like dog tag type things. We're still trying to find a marching band, but there's been no luck so far with Lake Placid and them getting a marching band for their parade yet, which is in the evening. Lineup for the parade is going to be at 11 a.m. and we are currently working on getting essentially, what's the word I'm looking for? Parade marshals for who the parade will be dedicated to. Right now, we got a couple of pretty nice things in the works. Food is actually going to be done by Dogfather, which is going to be really great. That way, that's one thing that takes stuff really off the Jay Fire Department's hands. Hex and Hops is going to be there from Bloomingdale with adult beverages. The Jay Fire Department's going to have soda there. We're still trying to check to see if we can get some sort of ice cream. We really are hoping Mr. Dingling can come because we want to listen to that music all day.
Did you have?
Carol, that's.
I know. So if anybody else has any of their ideas later on, get in touch with me because that's still a question mark. Kids games, we are still going to have kids games with darts. They're going to be doing their darts and fish. We have the hula hoop lady who was at J-Day coming to do hula hooping and teaching kids how to hula hoop. We have a magician coming who will be doing 2 shows right at the beginning of the day. We have a DJ who's going to be doing all day long, doing like chicken dance type things and sing-along competitions and different things like that. We have secured, from the last meeting when we asked for funds for bands, we have secured 4 bands. 2 will be at the firehouse, starting at 1 o'clock and then running through the fireworks. We have 2 that are going to be set up on the Jay Green. GEMS has agreed to open up the GEMS building for bathrooms. We are still working on, and Norm Coolidge is really working on getting a cruise in down at the Douglas Memorial Park. Norm Jabut, the owner of the theater here in town, they have the house right next to the park there on Randy's Lane. They are going to do like a pottery thing for children there. So we're making it more of a first night, if you will, of July, where there's really trying to keep people in the Jay Hamlet all day as possible. So the evening is going to end off with fireworks. Currently, the Jay Fire Department has a budget of $5,000 for fireworks. They are looking for anybody else who wants to donate to help make that show bigger and better. And then we are going to have a cleanup day on July 10th. We're actually going to have a quick day the day after so that the birds don't get into all the trash and everything. But we're going to have just another cleanup volunteer day on July 10th, which is again a Sunday at 9 a.m.
Talk about a cleanup. Do we have DARS come and just pick up?
We've got a couple of things in the works. Casella's is actually, we asked if they wanted to have their garbage truck in the parade since they donated these canisters after the flood. She doesn't know if she's going to have enough manpower to get somebody to bring a truck, but they did say they would either donate something or they would donate something. So we're reaching back out to see if they would do our trash removal. If they don't, we're gonna go look at DARS, and, if they,
If that falls through, I mean, years ago, the highway department used to bring a truck over there and then take it to the county.
perfect, you could have it in the parade and leave it.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a new truck with that.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, that's an option too, if the board agrees with, we obviously we got to take county for the trash,
Right.
but I'm sure they would work with us on it.
So I am going to come back to you because we are putting in a Town of Jay float that's gonna be pulled by, on one of Paul's trailers, pulled by him. Our first band, the first band that's playing at the fire department is actually going to be on the float and singing throughout the parade. So that at least is a way to have some sort of marching band in the parade. So we've had I think we've had a lot of people reach out to us about being in the parade already. We are looking to get some decorations. We want to decorate the covered bridge. Don Morrison's already going to be putting out flags that he's put out for years around the village green, and prizes and some of the other things. I am going to come back to you guys and request another $2,000 for those, for decorations and for our prizes for the parade. And once again, my request would come from Roost funds. So I'm making that motion for $2,000. Mr. McDonald's as a second.
Yeah, I think it was.
Any discussion?
I think it's a great event. I mean, it's gonna be good.
Thank you.
So,
Carol, could we have a roll call vote on that?
Councilman Ford,
Yes.
Councilman Bush,
Yes.
Councilman McDonald,
Yes.
Supervisor Stanley,
Yes.
Councilman Stark.
yes,
Motion carries.
as long as we get ice cream.
I will try to get you ice cream. Ooh, they might, never thought of that. Stewart's.
They probably donate something, I don't know if they're gonna serve it.
Wow, sir, until donate big cups.
Yes, that's a great idea.
If you want to serve it that way.
So for a while, we've been talking about putting together and working on and updating our comprehensive plan. We actually had a meeting last night with 2 board members with the planning board last night to sort of focus on moving forward and updating what we're trying to do here and how we're trying to keep Jay the community that it is. So a couple things came out of last night. Mr. Manning was at that meeting as well, talking about the legal aspects of our comprehensive plan and what our planning board can actually do with big subdevelopments that do come into the town. I would like to recommend that we actually go out have the county put out an RFP to help get somebody redo and update our comprehensive plan. So that's one motion and thing I would like to request.
That's not actually what we spoke about last night, though.
It's separate.
There was a separate issue. We did talk about maybe getting there. But I think first and foremost, I think the conclusion of our meeting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was to get a committee of 2 board members.
Can I stop you just for a second?
Sure.
That's my next point.
Right, but.
So we can
but
start
the-
there.
But
So we can start
those were
there.
2 separate things, but first and foremost, it was.
But I do want to let you know in both of these issues that we're talking about with the planning board and the issues with the planning board that we want to work on with the planning board in a committee, we also want to update the comprehensive plan, and they both actually work hand in hand with each other. So I'll let you continue about the planning board issues that you guys discussed last night in the committee. We'll do that first.
So we talked about a few things. One of them was comprehensive plan and the possibility of zoning. I think the discussion last night said we should start with just focusing on the review of the current subdivision manual and focusing on that. and seeing where that leads us. And they want to start off with a committee of 2 board members, all the planning board members, and at least having Ralph Schisler and as a community member, possibly with the option of opening up to other committee members or residents as well, for input of just what we have in our current planning board rules and regulations, as well as identifying the fact that everyone needs to go through the planning board, understanding what their authority is. Only a couple of the members of the current planning board have proper training, and everyone else needs to be caught up to date to know what they can and cannot do under our current rules. And then there will be suggestions that come from that. And I think the goal of that committee was to identify if we need to take further steps over and beyond just identifying what our current rules are.
If we are creating this committee, would you like to chair that committee?
I don't know if I need to chair that committee. I think it would be appropriate to be a liaison to that committee, and I think the correct chair to that committee would be our planning board director, Garth Rogers. And I think one of the board members should be a liaison.
So is that a formal motion to create a committee with Garth Rogers as the chair?
Yeah, and then I'll be the Town of Jay board member liaison.
Can I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
So yeah, I think I just want to go back to the comprehensive plan. I mean, there are 2 very different things, but related. I think my understanding from the meeting yesterday, and 2 of you were there, is a big part of the conversation was specifically to the planning board and identify within specific to what planning boards, what we may want to, where there may be issues that we may want to safeguard and look at. And yeah, they ultimately can become part of a comprehensive plan or guide, but
First, we have to identify what the true issues are.
yeah, in terms of the planning board, but the comprehensive plan is a lot more than that. I guess what I'm saying, I'm in favor of both things, we can treat them separately at this point.
Right, I think they can be treated separately, but in the aspect of time, if worked together, they both can be worked towards together for a final product.
Yes. And I would see the planning board, I'm not saying a big, quick resolution to the committee, but, that's something that probably over the next 4, 5, 6 months, some of the major issues should be able to be identified. And then, the comprehensive plan, you put it out for an RFP before we even get that going. It's, the planning board committee has probably identified the main issues already by then. So.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they can be done concurrently, so to speak.
So, Mr. Coolidge, if you are the liaison, is there anybody else on this board that would like to be part of that committee?
It's gonna be the full planning board.
It's going to be the full planning board, which means there'll be, all of our meetings will be open meetings.
Right.
And there will be a planning board, normal, regular planning board meetings, but as an add-on to them. Or
It'll be an extension of the planning
extension,
board.
or maybe in the beginning. All right.
I would sit in as an alternate for you. You need an alternate. If you can't make a meeting, do you need an alternate?
Well, we need 2 board members. Then you can have an alternate in case one can't make it. So, I mean, if you can't make a meeting, you can't make a meeting, but if you're interested, then happy to have you on board.
I mean, Tommy or you don't want to do it, I will do it.
Well, I'll be involved. I don't have a problem being involved. I probably should be.
Because it's an open meeting, I don't know if there's any restrictions of why all 5 of us can't show up. But as for the purposes of the committee, only two
Right.
people would,
Then it has to be advertised.
well, it's going to be
Well,
advertised.
Yeah,
Planning board
but you're
meeting.
only advertising the planning board meeting because they are a quorum as a planning board meeting.
Right.
We are a separate public body, so we would have to advertise both separate,
We could go as citizens, we just can't sit
Go sit
together.
in.
We could go as citizens,
Yeah,
but we just can't sit
we all
together.
sit in if we want to. Adam and Steve would be at the table.
Yes, but if
We could all-
if we are more than two from this board, it becomes a public town board meeting.
Not if you don't sit together.
What they're saying is if they're sitting and just not putting in their 2 cents, they can attend as residents.
Oh, and
They can attend as
in the
residents.
audience or?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone can attend as residents.
Okay, yeah,
Just like voting election results.
okay.
These are on Wednesdays.
I believe it's the Wednesday before,
They're usually the
Before
Wednesday
meeting.
just before this meeting.
but they change a lot.
So, all right. So everybody in favor of the creation of that committee, say aye. Anybody opposed? Passes. So now getting back to the comprehensive plan. We do know it needs to be updated. The last time it was updated was 97? 90 something, 92? So,
97.
yes. So I would make a motion that we put out an RFP to find somebody to help us update our comprehensive plan.
I'd second that.
Mr. Sauer with a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Passes. Next thing is, we've had a talk about the flood wall a lot in the past over behind Kevin Douglas's building next to the Main Street Bridge. Last year, we went out to, we tried to apply for this Climate Smart grant, which would cover that. We did not get that grant last year, but it is now back open again. Mr. Sowers actually contacted Community Resource. No, there was somebody.
No, we, ANCA, NYSERDA, I guess, I don't know if it's NYSERDA, but ANCA reached out to us that they are now involved in the Climate Smart.
Climate Smart grant.
Yeah, Climate Smart, grants. And are now advocating for us jointly with Community Resources. Community Resources has done the engineering or the application, but ANCA is kind of facilitating and advocating for us, or communities, in this case, Town of Jay with a specific grant. And they set up a meeting together with DEC, which I attended today, to get details as to what we can do to improve the grant. And I walked them through the reason for it, and I don't think I oversold why we need money or why we need a flood wall. But it seemed like it's just my perception, they did send us a memo afterwards I'll share that with everybody, but it seemed like we may not have, in the previous grant, really identified the total value of the properties that can be affected by the flood and the value. But more importantly, the key thing, it sounded like, was that, and I don't know exactly how this works, but there is they call it it wasn't forward-looking enough in terms of climate change. And how is the climate going to be 20 years from now? We're going to have more rain, and we're going to have more of that, and how that will affect the current structure. And because we weren't forward-looking, saying because climate change, there's going to be more rain and more river flow, we're going to need it more. That was a big thing that was kind of missing in the application. And they pointed us in the right direction where to, flood risk guidance management.
They told us what we need to do.
They basically told us
They
how we
actually
can
gave us a
improve, get
two-page.
more points, in terms of, in terms of getting more points in terms of that, because it is a competitive grant. And then after that, they sent us this memo, that's an internal memo, that Aaron from ANCA asked for, and they were kind enough to send it. So Aaron wants to set up a meeting with the county. And even Aaron was a little bit surprised because she wasn't under the impression, understanding the need for the grant that, from reading our application originally.
Erin,
Aaron, I think, was her name, Aaron, I think.
and she's the head of,
She's at ANCA.
she's the anchor.
Yeah. So what we need to do, because the grant closes on July 24th, we need to we need to pass a resolution that we want to apply for the grant. I think my memory serves me correctly, last year, or the engineering costs that were, not engineering, but the cost for the project was roughly $350,000. This grant is a 50% match. So it would cost the town $175,000 if we would get the grant, and, I think at that
And
rate.
with the 350 still in
Yeah. Now, by passing a resolution to apply for the grant, doesn't mean we have to accept the grant if we get it, but at least will buy us some time, and, we can.
Would Anna be writing this again?
What's that?
Who's gonna write this grant for us?
So Anka, she will work with Rob or Community Resources to take the previous application and supercharge it.
And put this into it?
And
I'll make the motion to apply for, the grant for the flood wall.
I thought the flood wall was 800,000.
No, 800,000 was the original cost for the Upper J site that we did end up doing for 1
Okay,
Or
so this is
something.
the 350.
Yeah, this flood wall here is 350.
But that quote is now
Old.
2 years
2
old.
years old, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they say concrete price didn't go up much, but I don't know if that's actually.
But that was labor. Yeah.
Did it finally go up?
Everything went up.
Can I have a second for that motion?
I'll say.
Mr. Sauer?
Motion was for what?
Motion was to go out to apply for the Climate Smart Grant, which is a 50/50 matching grant. Any other discussion about that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The only other update about water stuff is I went and met with the Osceola River Association about Site 13 down here. They're about 30% complete with the engineering, I think, or site plan of that project. There were 3 different models that their computers generated about how to get water out of essentially Osceola Forks the quickest, moving the most sediment. And it was very interesting. I do have the drawings of what they're proposing doing. There is no cost associated with the project yet. The project, I sent a letter of support to earmark federal money from Elise Stefanik, which, from when I met with them 2 weeks ago, was still in her earmarks and had not been cut. So there is a possibility of getting money. I mean, in that letter that I wrote to her, I pretty much had said, hopefully doing a project like Site 13 will mitigate future floods like we just experienced this February. So the Osceola River Association sort of wants to see where we're leaning on this, because it does affect, because it's the middle of the river, affect both us and the town of Black Brook. So.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, and actually Jody might be able to help me out with this. You were on the committee that originally did the study of the impact after Irene for New York Rising. And that's where all these sites came from, is that correct? And I think Site 13 was on that original scope. And then did they, in that original document, because I read this someplace, but I don't recall where, they identified each site and the economic impact and how many homes it made, the impact on homes and residents. Was that in that New York Rising document that you were part of?
I'm not sure if it was in the published report. The published report is still available.
I've seen it online, but I'm just trying to recall where I saw that.
You'd have to Google it and then see if it's in that particular report.
But you don't recall if those details were in that report?
Not the final published report.
I mean,
It was definitely something that
How-
was discussed, because that's how they came to prioritize
Right,
the project.
and I think Site 13 was prioritized like 4th or 5th on that list.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm not sure who's actually in that.
There's a grid in there that like scores the cost and,
Right.
and all that.
The impact.
Impact.
And by the, yeah, was that in that New York Rise?
I
If
think
I want to
that's-
go back and
I
read
think
it,
it
is that
was in
where I'm
that.
finding it?
I think it was in that report. I have a copy of it, but it's probably big to email.
Well, the last time I read it, I went online. and Googled
Yeah,
it,
it's
and-
very
and
easy to find out.
It was very easy. Because, I mean, if this is the only project that's currently earmarked on the river for federal funds, for shovel-ready
Well,
federal funds,
project
is that correct, Matt?
site two,
The site in Upper J currently has funding already,
except for.
except for
10% town match.
the matching portion of it. It was in that grant that was won by, it was actually said it was won by the town of Keene, but it's for that site up there, it's $500,000 that was for essentially that project, it should have been. It was put together with the town of Keene and the town of Jay for river rehabilitation. So that site up there is getting close to being, and to be perfectly honest, they haven't actually come back to us asking for money for that.
I think this, because they know this year, they're not gonna get into it this year.
Right.
And I think they still need some more money. And I think what she said is that it would be very helpful if the town of Jay makes a 10% matching commitment when they go ask for the additional funding they need. I think they got $500,000, it'll be $700,000. They think they're gonna get another 100 somewhere else, and they need 70,000 from the town of Jay.
And that could be in-kind work.
And that can be in-kind work.
Because she's thinking she can do it for like 700,000-800,000, even though the last quote we got was like 1 point.
Because that was federal money and required certain other,
Correct.
with the current grants, I think they can do more local.
Contractors.
Yeah, which is great, I'm all for that.
But you still got a bit of demo.
Right.
You can't just pick them.
Yeah, but but she can bid it out differently than the Gosher money, the way that was bidded out.
I do remember her talking about certain local contractors did not bid on those things because of the stacks of paperwork.
Yeah.
So, the only place I was really going with this is, do we want to invite them to come give a presentation of these two sites,
I think so.
You're talking about River Association?
River Association?
I'm not opposed to this. I don't want to see town funding, though, go towards Site 13 if we don't take care of what I deem as priority of Upper J, River, and the flood wall. I just don't want to sacrifice those two projects.
Any other discussion about the river? Moving on. It was brought up during the last meeting by, I believe you, Councilman Sauer, to increase procurement amount for the highway superintendent and the town supervisor from 1,500 to 2,500, but we never actually voted on it.
No, but, yeah.
So,
So I'd like to make a resolution that we do, given all the cost increases and the last increase, in $1,500 was 10 years ago, and with inflation and everything, to increase the level 1 amount in the procurement policy from $1,500 to $2,500 for highway superintendent as well as the town supervisor. Obviously, that would have a kind of a little bit of a ripple effect, not necessarily a ripple effect, but it would increase the level 2, 2,500 to 5,000 or whatever it is. But for for the other department heads, it would remain at $1,500.
can I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Mr. Forbes, discussion.
It's the only thought I have is we think the supervisor needs more help. I mean,
I haven't
see
run
the highway.
into, I haven't run into the fact where I need more.
Yeah, I mean, I got no problem with the highway because I understand that. I don't know if we need more help or you're just trying to keep it across the board or something.
I was just thinking, similar level in terms of,
But is it gonna hurt to increase this? Granted, you may not use it now, but.
Well, I mean, you're buying tires for trucks. When's Matt going to be spending $2,500?
I mean, I guess the thing could be if he's out, but then it would fall down to the deputy highway.
Right.
So,
like, for example, last week I was out of town and we came down with COVID.
Right.
I think you ought to increase the
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point. I mean, how often does it happen? But
Right.
It only takes one.
In an emergency, it's there.
Right.
Well, if it's emergency.
Then it's a
You don't-
state.
you don't need it.
And,
But you have a policy to keep spending in check.
Right.
Well, as much as I trust Matt and everyone that we have on the board and highway superintendent, the limits are in there for a reason. It's to possibly curb abuse. So I would only, I think highway for sure. I don't know if I see the reason for.
So
So we can
the,
add in afterwards too.
the resolution as amended will just be the highway superintendent from 1,500 to 25.
Well, that's what, if you want to amend it.
Would you like
I'd
to
be
amend
happy
that?
to amend that. if
Would you like to
that's
second
not
that
enough.
amendment?
That's fine.
Perfect.
Everybody's good with it.
So we'll do a roll call vote on this. Carol, please.
Councilman Forbes,
Yes.
Councilman Coolidge,
Yes.
Councilman McDonald,
Yes.
Supervisor Stanley,
Yes.
Councilman Starr,
Yes.
Motion carries
that's for highway.
for highway superintendent only.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing it up. We've been trying to do that for a while. We've talked about it.
The next thing that's in your packet is for retirement purposes, accepting the record of activity for myself and for Kevin Lincoln for New York State retirement, based on, this is from 3 months, from January through the end of March.
I'll make that motion.
What is this category?
So that category is number of days per month, correct? Working days per month?
Record of activity.
The record of activity result, that's a calculation of how many days, and the actual max you can get is 20, correct?
Oh, I see.
So he just gets the luxury of plowing 24/7.
I'll
I know
move
it came with a job.
I'll move the motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. The last bit of information I have was a recommendation from Mr. Rogers from the planning board, the chairman of the planning board, to appoint Melinda, how do you say your last name, Melinda? Bluff? To the planning board.
I'll make that one.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Coolidge, seconded by Mr. Sauer. Any discussion?
Where's she live?
I don't know.
Appreciate you.
She's right here in the front.
okay.
Oh, this is Melinda right here.
I live on Green Street.
Appreciate you stepping up
Do you-
and
you wanna
volunteering.
Do you want to
Tell us
tell us a
a
little
little
bit about
background.
yourself?
Sure, we moved up last year, on Green Street, we bought, Pam and Bob Ryan's house. So I know a lot of people know.
I'm gonna call for your husband.
We were moved from Ulster County. In Ulster County, I was on the Gardner Town Planning Board and the Ulster County Planning Board. I also, was, the administrator for the Ulster County Development Corporation and the CEO for the IDA for a period of time. I stepped out of that position in 2014, and I was HR director for a manufacturer up until 2018, and then I retired.
Well, welcome to the town of Jay.
Thank you.
Lose that motion.
So you're glutton for punishment.
Janet Ward would be very happy that we finally got a.
Well, it was,
I think we're
so
gonna be
we
relying on
were
her a lot
in
over the next
discussion,
couple.
all in favor of appointing her?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So that is all I have for my report. Moving on to events, I already covered that in my report. So we're on to board comments. Mr. Sauer, we'll start with you.
Only got one one question for Kevin, I forgot to ask you. Sidewalks.
I have them over here by the library, there's over 700 feet of sidewalk that needs to be done. I just gotta find time to go, see what it would cost compared to us doing it, or just hiring them out. No, us excavate everything.
We put extra money in that budget line for you this year, didn't we? Or we carried over?
We carried over.
We carried over, there was 10,000 left from last year, and then you guys put this year's 10,000.
That should get us a reasonable,
Not as being hired out and paid prevailing wage, so that eats up a lot of your budget. But finding somebody with a crew.
Maybe we can put a,
Employee.
maybe we can put a Stewart's over here because they've done it pretty quick over there.
Yeah, I did go measure everything. But again, price of concrete's going up, and
Now, Kirsten mentioned something about a power pole over there. Is that something that needs to be moved before we put sidewalks in, or what's the deal with that hole?
I think there's one right on the corner of, College and Church. It's kind of right in the
That's what he said.
sidewalk. I'm not sure if it can be moved because of water and sewer mains.
Okay.
Actually, I think that's the section of sidewalk, we get a couple more years out of it anyways, but it's something we can look into further.
Anything else, Mr. Sauer? Mr. McDonald? Mr. Coolidge?
just two things, going back to the planning board meeting we had last night, and I sent a text out to earlier. I think it'd be a good idea if we can look into an alternate location to store the planning board's files to where they can have access to them whenever they need them. And also create a government email address for the, whoever the director of the planning board is going to be, so that can change over hands. And have that all posted on the website, so when people reach out, just go into one confined email that the next planning board director will have all the files and all the histories in that email thread. It makes us look a little bit cleaner and professional as well.
I think that is a great idea, and I think we can very easily do that. Already done, has
What?
been, just not used.
From,
All he has to do is get with you, set a password, and he's ready to go.
perfect. That's for the email address, and do we have a location for the files for concept yet?
So the thing that I proposed, and I had sort of talked about this a little earlier in the year, was to actually move the planning board into where the tax collector currently is. So that you have the planning board with the big table in front of going into code. So you got that table there that if you're looking at building permits or getting a building permit, you've got drawings, you can easily lay it out on that table. Everything's in the same corridor.
So I think the issue that with the tax collector was earlier this year, I think the planning board had a concern with that because the planning board, or the tax collector had checks, they had money in that room.
Right. The tax collector would move out of that room.
Okay.
My idea would be to, as we actually close that hallway off that comes down towards my office, and we actually make that the center of where you walk through the front doors, you actually see a location to go to. With a window that that's where the tax collector would actually sit, or during the day, the town clerk would be there to greet people and meet them as they're coming into the building. The reason I like that idea is because when the tax collector is here at night, they are on one side of a wall, the people coming in to pay the tax collector is on another side. It's very secure, it actually adds more space for us, it actually gets the planning board, so you don't actually need to come in the back to go see codes. You can go down the hallway to the codes, the planning board stuff would be there. So that is something I brought up earlier, I can actually walk you guys around and sort of give you what my kind of ideas are for that.
In the meantime, until that gets finalized, what about putting the planning board's files and maybe a desk up in one of the rooms upstairs? Is that doable? Because they're not going to necessarily need to have meetings up there or have the public up there. Or, I mean, how quick do you think your idea could be turned around?
Fairly soon, I just have Kevin come send some guys to do it. You got plenty of guys. Gotta find something for those.
Just because I know, I was speaking to Ralph, I know there's, I was speaking to Ralph last night, and he was saying there was a meeting not too long ago where they couldn't get to the files and get to the maps that they needed for that meeting. Ralph had to drive all the way home, get extra copies of the maps, and then come back here and then present them again. I mean, that's just not a situation I'd like to see.
But I would think in the short term, we could actually move them there sooner rather than later, just because
It's not
tax season's over.
Yeah, it's
So-
not tax season.
We could actually move her out to get that planning board stuff in there now, and then work towards.
She won't really need it till the end of the year to do
Right.
mailings.
So I mean, she comes in every once in a while, but we can set her up.
I'd just say, even if it's a temporary solution, I think it'd be a good idea to solve it sooner rather than later. And then if we get to a more permanent solution like you're proposing, then that's fine.
We can even get that done this week. That was easy. You got anything else? I wish every issue that came to my desk was that easy.
Right?
Build a wall. I'm trying to.
Okay.
Mr. Forts?
Two things. I talked briefly with you about it. I talked with Supervisor Holzer from Wilmington, and they have a senior bus up there that they seem to be willing to possibly work with us, split the cost, like if they're going to Plattsburgh with their seniors, and they have room to allow our seniors to get on either at the Village Green or here to get them to Plattsburgh to do their shopping or what have you, when they do it. I don't know if it's something that you guys would like to pursue.
Does the bus not come at the parking lot anymore, at the Grand Union?
Well, this is their
You mean
senior
car
bus.
The cart bus, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of our seniors use that cart bus, not all of them, but for a period of time there, the cart bus wasn't coming and we were getting a lot of questions. People were using it.
Well, this is just a thought because our van is gone.
No, I'm not opposed to it, I'm just curious if we're gonna be talking about redundancy of services.
Essex County has a few of those routes, and isn't one of them, was that the Clinton County, the shopping route they call it?
I think it is, and they have a the Essex
Right.
County and Clinton County transfer right
Transfers
here
right
in the
here,
Grand
yeah.
Union parking lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a transfer station.
I mean, I think it's a good idea to make sure that we have it. I don't know how efficient, if there's a,
This is just something they do once in a great while, like maybe once a month or once every other month.
But it's a
not-
planned senior day.
It's a planned senior.
It's a
day.
senior trip.
Yes,
essentially.
yeah, it's like a school trip for seniors.
Oh, well, maybe we can bring that idea to our seniors and see if there's any interest.
And the second thing was, I had a complaint given to me about, on Saturday, there was people kind of blocking the traffic here by Lance's, soliciting money. Do we have anything on our books about that, or is that nothing that can be regulated?
Well, that's a state road.
Right.
was that, do we know what was
Well,
like?
it was, they said it was the bikers, the motorcyclists.
They,
doing it,
on
Oh, for
on
ALS.
June 4th, the Mountain,
and
they were
got-
raising money for the ALS. They had an event that launched out at 20 Main. They ended at softball fields. They do it every year. It's been a very healthy success. We used to do a lot. When I was a kid, I remember standing in the middle of the street with jugs. And I would say probably, it used to be 8 to 10 times a year, people would be collecting money. It's only as far as I know, these are the only people that do it every year now.
I didn't see it, but I just.
I think
They
it
felt
was
like they were
like
for
some
it.
of the sports groups will do it.
They used to. I don't know. I haven't seen them do it recently.
I know.
No, the car one.
We as the fire department used to do it in Four Corners of Jet.
I think there was a basketball and,
Well, I guess they're-
and I know they were doing it on the Clinton County side. I didn't know they were doing it on Essex County side.
I guess the point was there were no signs up as to what it was for. There's just people all over the street kind of forcing everybody to stop.
I didn't know you're supposed to have permits and everything.
Right, I didn't know what the deal was with it. That was the first I heard of it.
I'll check into it, or we'll check into it. And then, when they go to do it next year, we'll make sure they're permitted and they have signs, and if that is what's required.
That's all I've got.
And if you need a contact for them, I can get you a contact for them.
Okay.
Like I said, I personally didn't see it. I just had a person come up to me and ask me about it.
Yep, sure.
It is.
Want
it
to
is-
keep people safe too, I mean.
Yeah, it is,
So.
it feels different in today's world than it used to.
Yes.
All right, at this time, if anybody has thought of any questions they want to ask, up to this point, I mean, we've been chatting here for a while, so if anybody has any comments, more than welcome to step back up. Say your name. All right, our next board meeting is July 14th at 7 PM here.
I will not be, I'm asking for an excuse. Mr. Principal.
Denied.
It depends how nice you are to me this year, or this month.
I'll be nice.
Okay. You're excused. We do need to go into executive session to talk about some personnel issues. We will be back in not too long to adjourn the meeting. But if I could get a motion to go into executive session? Mr. McDonald, a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Forbes, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're in executive session.
This conference will now be recorded.